The red soil of Kepler 442b crunched under Marcus Chen's boots as he made his way across the mining compound. 3 years into humanity's first major colonization effort, and the place still felt alien despite all their terraforming work. The twin suns cast strange shadows that moved in patterns his earthborn brain couldn't quite adjust to, and the crystalline formations jutting from the ground caught the light in ways that made everything shimmer like a fever dream. Marcus wiped sweat from his forehead, leaving a streak of dirt across his pale skin. The atmospheric processors were working overtime today, and the humidity was brutal. He'd volunteered for the geological survey because it meant time away from the cramped prefab buildings where 2,000 humans lived in what could generously be called organized chaos. Out here, with just his scanner and sample kit, he could pretend he was an explorer rather than just another cog in humanity's desperate expansion machine. The scanner beeped insistently, pulling him from his thoughts. Marcus frowned at the readout. According to the device, there was a significant metallic anomaly 3 meters below his feet. Not unusual in itself, Kepler 442b was rich in minerals, which was why they'd chosen it for colonization, but this reading was different. Too regular. Too manufactured. He marked the GPS coordinates and continued his survey, but the anomaly nagged at him. By the time he returned to base that evening, he'd made up his mind to investigate further. The next morning, Marcus returned to the site with a portable excavator. The machine made quick work of the compacted soil, its plasma torch slicing through rock and earth like butter. 1 meter down, 2 meters, and then, clang. Metal against metal. Marcus shut off the excavator and dropped into the hole. His headlamp illuminated something that made his breath catch in his throat. It was a cage. Roughly 2 meters long, 1 meter wide, made from some kind of black metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. And, inside. Jesus Christ, Marcus whispered, scrambling backwards. There was something alive in there. The creature was small, maybe the size of a human child, with pale blue skin that had an almost translucent quality. Its limbs were longer and thinner than human proportions, ending in delicate hands with 6 fingers each. But it was the face that made Marcus's heart race, large, dark eyes that reflected his headlamp like mirrors, set in features that were hauntingly beautiful despite being utterly alien. The creature was conscious. Those massive eyes tracked his movement with obvious intelligence, and its mouth, lipless but somehow expressive, moved in what might have been speech, though no sound emerged. Marcus fumbled for his radio. Base, this is Chen. I need a xenobiology team out here. Immediately. Chen, you're supposed to be doing geological surveys, not playing with imaginary friends, came the crackling response from Dr. Sarah Voss, the expedition's chief scientist. I'm serious, Sarah. I've found something. Someone. She's been buried alive. The silence on the radio stretched long enough that Marcus wondered if the connection had failed. Finally, Sarah's voice came back, tight with professional skepticism. Marcus, are you feeling all right? The heat can cause hallucinations. I'm sending you video feed now, Marcus interrupted, activating his helmet camera and pointing it toward the cage. Another long silence. Then, holy shit. Don't move, don't touch anything. We're on our way. Marcus ignored the first part of that order. The cage had a latch mechanism that looked simple enough, a series of interlocking metal pieces that reminded him of a Chinese puzzle box. His grandmother had loved those things, and muscle memory guided his fingers as he worked at the mechanism. What are you doing? The alien's voice was barely a whisper, but unmistakably real. Marcus jerked back, startled not just by the sound but by the fact that he could understand it. The words seemed to bypass his ears entirely, forming meaning directly in his mind. Getting you out of there, Marcus said, returning to the latch. How long have you been down here? The alien's head tilted in a gesture that was surprisingly human. Time, difficult to measure in darkness. Many sleep cycles. Many hunger periods. The telepathic voice carried undertones of exhaustion and something that might have been hope. The latch clicked, and the cage door swung open with a metallic groan. The alien didn't immediately emerge. Instead, she stared at Marcus with those enormous eyes, as if she couldn't quite believe what was happening. "It's okay," Marcus said gently, extending his hand. "You're safe now." The alien looked at his outstretched palm for a long moment, then slowly reached out with one of her six-fingered hands. Her skin was cool to the touch and had a texture like silk over steel, soft but with an underlying strength that spoke of evolutionary adaptation to harsh conditions. As soon as their hands touched, Marcus gasped. Images flooded his mind, not his own memories, but hers. He saw a world of crystal cities that reached toward purple skies, beings like her moving through the air on gossamer wings that seemed to be made of pure light. He saw the terror of capture, the confusion of being dragged from her home, and the despair of being lowered into the ground while others of her kind looked on and laughed. They thought it was funny, the alien whispered, and Marcus realized she was sharing his shock at that revelation. The young ones often play cruel jokes. But they forgot about me. The season changed, and they forgot. Marcus helped her out of the cage, noting that her legs shook with weakness. She was wearing what looked like a simple tunic made from material that seemed to shift color in the light, but it was torn and stained. How long had she been down here without food or water? "What's your name?" he asked. "In your language." Zara would be close. "And you are Marcus Chen. I can taste your thoughts." The matter-of-fact way she said it should have been disturbing, but somehow it wasn't. There was nothing invasive about her mental touch, it felt more like gentle curiosity than intrusion. The sound of approaching vehicles broke the moment. 3 all-terrain transports were racing across the plains toward them, kicking up clouds of red dust. Marcus could see the expedition's xenobiology team, led by Dr. Voss, along with what looked like a full security detail. "They're afraid of me," Zara observed, her mental voice tinged with sadness. "I can feel their fear from here." "They're not afraid of you specifically," Marcus said, though he wasn't entirely sure that was true. "They're afraid of the unknown. It's a human thing." Is burying someone alive also a human thing? The question hit Marcus like a punch to the gut. "No," he said firmly. "No, it's not. What happened to you was wrong, and I'm sorry." Zara's large eyes studied his face intently. "You feel guilt for something you did not do. This is interesting. Your species takes responsibility for actions beyond your control." The vehicle skidded to a halt nearby, and Dr. Voss jumped out before her transport had fully stopped. She was a small woman in her 50s with graying hair pulled back in a severe bun, and her face wore the expression of someone whose carefully ordered world had just been turned upside down. "Chen, step away from her," Dr. Voss called out, her voice tight with controlled panic. Marcus looked down at Zara, who was still holding his hand. She seemed so small and fragile, nothing like the monsters humans had been taught to expect when they finally encountered alien intelligence. "She's hurt, Sarah. She needs medical attention. We don't know anything about her biology. For all we know, she could be carrying pathogens that she's been buried alive for weeks," Marcus interrupted, his voice rising. "She's dehydrated, probably starving, and scared out of her mind. She needs help, not a quarantine tent." Dr. Voss approached slowly, her scanner held out like a shield. The device beeped and chirped as it analyzed Zara from a distance. Readings show she's carbon-based, oxygen-breathing. Elevated stress indicators, signs of severe dehydration. The scientist's expression softened slightly. "Bring her to medical. But, slowly. And, don't let go of her, she seems to trust you." As they made their way to the vehicles, Zara's grip on Marcus's hand tightened. Through their connection, he could feel her overwhelming gratitude mixed with terror at the sight of so many strange beings surrounding her. "Your people," she said into his mind, "they are not like mine. I can sense their compassion, even through their fear." Marcus squeezed her hand gently. "We're not perfect, but we try to do the right thing. Most of the time." "And you, Marcus Chen? Do you always do the right thing?" Marcus thought about that as they reached the medical transport. Did he? He joined the colonization effort to escape a dead-end life on Earth, not out of any noble desire to expand human knowledge. He'd been planning to put in his 5-year contract and return home with enough money to buy a small farm somewhere quiet. But, looking down at Zara's upturned face, he realized that some decisions transcended personal goals. "I try," he said finally. "And, right now, the right thing is making sure you're okay." Dr. Voss ushered them into the medical transport, where automated scanners immediately began analyzing Zara's condition. The alien flinched at each new device that activated, but she didn't let go of Marcus's hand. "Severe dehydration, malnutrition, and what appears to be respiratory distress," the medical AI announced in its maddeningly calm voice. "Recommend immediate fluids and nutritional support." "Wait," Dr. Voss said, holding up a hand. "We don't know if human medical procedures will be compatible with her physiology." Zara's mental voice cut through the debate like a knife. "I am dying," she said simply, her thoughts touching not just Marcus but everyone in the transport. Several people gasped as they suddenly found an alien presence in their minds. "Your medicines may harm me, but, without help, I will die anyway. I choose to trust." The weight of that trust settled over the group like a blanket. Here was a being from another world, another species entirely, placing her life in the hands of creatures she'd met only minutes ago. The magnitude of that faith wasn't lost on anyone. Dr. Voss looked at Marcus, then at Zara, then at the medical readouts. "Do it," she said quietly. "But, monitor everything. If there's any sign of adverse reaction, we stop immediately." As the medical team began their work, Marcus felt Zara's grip on his hand loosen slightly. Through their connection, he could sense her relief at finally having fluids entering her system, but also her growing weakness as her body began to shut down non-essential functions. "Sleep," she whispered into his mind. "But, promise you will be here when I wake." "I promise," Marcus said, and meant it completely. As Zara's eyes closed and her breathing deepened into what the medical AI confirmed was natural sleep rather than unconsciousness, Marcus found himself wondering what they'd started. Humanity's first contact with intelligent alien life, and it began with rescuing someone who'd been buried alive as a joke. He looked around at the faces of his colleagues, scientists, security personnel, medical staff, and saw his own mixture of wonder and responsibility reflected in their eyes. They were no longer just colonists trying to build a new world for humanity. They were now the guardians of something infinitely more precious, a bridge between two species that might determine the future of both races. The transport rumbled toward base, carrying its precious cargo through the alien landscape of Kepler 442b. And, in the medical bay, a human held the hand of a being from another world, while both their species stood on the threshold of something unprecedented in the galaxy. Outside the windows, the twin suns set in a blaze of colors that no human eyes had evolved to see, painting the sky in shades of possibility that stretched beyond imagination. Zara woke to the soft hum of human technology and the smell of recycled air. For a moment, panic flashed through her system as she remembered the suffocating darkness of the burial cage, but then she felt a familiar presence nearby. Marcus was sitting in a chair beside her medical bed, his eyes closed but his breathing pattern indicating light sleep rather than deep rest. The medical bay was unlike anything from her homeworld. Where Kytherian healing spaces were grown from living crystal that responded to biological needs, this human facility was all manufactured materials and blinking lights. Yet there was something oddly comforting about its mechanical efficiency. It spoke of a species that conquered challenges through ingenuity rather than adaptation. "You're awake." Marcus's voice was soft, careful not to startle her. His eyes opened and immediately focused on her face, and Zara felt the warm wash of relief and concern that emanated from his mind. "How long?" she asked, her mental voice stronger now that fluids and nutrients had restored some of her vitality. 2 days. Your body needed time to recover from the dehydration." Marcus leaned forward in his chair. "How do you feel?" Zara took inventory of her physical state. The crushing thirst was gone, and the constant ache of hunger had faded to manageable levels. But, beyond the physical recovery, something else had changed. The connection she'd formed with Marcus during their first contact had somehow grown stronger during her healing sleep. "Different," she said finally. "I can sense more of your people now. Their emotions, their thoughts when they're not carefully guarded. It's overwhelming. Through the medical bay's transparent walls, Zara could see humans moving through the corridors of their base. Each one was a storm of mental activity, hopes, fears, curiosities, prejudices, and dreams all swirling together in patterns that her telepathic senses could barely process. On Kythera, minds were naturally shielded from such intrusion. Here, human thoughts blazed like beacons. "Dr. Voss wants to talk with you," Marcus said. "She's the head of our scientific mission. But only when you feel ready." Zara nodded, though the gesture felt strange with her longer neck. "I am ready. But, Marcus, there are things I must tell you about my people. Things that will change how your species sees us." Before Marcus could respond, the medical bay door hissed open and Dr. Voss entered, followed by a man Zara didn't recognize. He was older, with silver hair and the bearing of someone accustomed to command. Through his unguarded thoughts, she caught his identity: Commander James Harrison, military leader of the human expedition. "Miss Zara," Dr. Voss began, her voice carefully professional. "I'm Dr. Sarah Voss. How are you feeling?" "Better, thanks to your care," Zara replied, this time speaking aloud rather than telepathically. Her vocal cords had recovered enough to produce sounds, though her accent was unlike anything humans had heard. "I owe my life to your kindness." Commander Harrison stepped forward. "We're glad you're recovering. But we need to understand your situation. Are there others of your kind on this planet? Are they hostile?" Zara felt the spike of military alertness from the commander's mind, mixed with genuine concern for his people's safety. She chose her words carefully. "There are others. My people call themselves Kytherians. She paused, gathering courage for what she had to reveal. "We have been watching your colony since you arrived." The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Marcus's hand found hers, offering support, while Dr. Voss and Commander Harrison exchanged sharp glances. "Watching us?" Dr. Voss asked. "From where?" "Our surveys showed no signs of intelligent life. We have cities in the crystal formations deep underground," Zara explained. "Your surveys could not penetrate that far. My people have advanced technology, but we prefer to remain hidden. We have learned that first contact between species rarely goes well for those who are discovered." Commander Harrison's mind blazed with tactical calculations. "How many of you are there? What's your technological level? Do you consider us a threat?" Zara could sense the fear underlying his questions, the primal human terror of being outgunned by an unknown enemy. But she could also feel something else from him, a genuine desire to protect his people coupled with a reluctant respect for her honesty. "There are perhaps 50,000 Kytherians in the deep cities," she said. "Our technology is different from yours. We grow our tools rather than build them, shape energy rather than matter. Whether we are a threat depends entirely on what happens in the coming days." "What do you mean?" Marcus asked, though Zara could feel through their connection that he suspected the answer. "My burial was not just a cruel joke," Zara said quietly. "It was a test. There are those among my people who believe humans are too primitive, too violent to share this world with. They wanted to see how you would react to finding one of us helpless and trapped." The silence that followed was heavy with implication. Dr. Voss was the first to speak. "And what were they expecting us to do? To leave me to die? Or perhaps to capture me for experimentation? My people have observed human history through your broadcasts and data transmissions. You have not always been kind to those who are different." Marcus's grip on her hand tightened. "But that's not what happened." "No," Zara said, her mental voice warm with gratitude. "Marcus risked his safety to free me. Your medical team risked contamination to heal me. You have shown something my people did not expect: compassion for a complete stranger." Commander Harrison leaned back against the wall, his expression thoughtful. "So what happens now? Do your people know you're alive?" "They are watching. They see everything that occurs on the surface through crystal sensors that grow like plants above ground. They know I live, and they know how I was treated. Zara took a breath. There will be a gathering of the Council of Shapers tomorrow at sunset. They will decide whether humanity can remain on Kythera. Shapers? Dr. Voss asked. Our leaders. They are called Shapers because they shape the growth of our cities, the flow of our technology, the future of our people. Zara's mental voice carried undertones of deep respect. They are ancient, wise, and not easily convinced to change their minds. What can we do? Marcus asked. Is there anything we can say or do to convince them we're not a threat? Zara was quiet for a long moment, her large eyes studying each of the humans in turn. There is something. But it would require great trust on both sides. Tell us, Commander Harrison said. I could serve as a bridge between our peoples. My telepathic abilities would allow me to share human thoughts and emotions directly with the Council, showing them your true nature rather than just your actions. But what? Dr. Voss prompted. But, to do this, I would need to form deeper connections with several humans. Not just Marcus, but representatives of your different types, scientists, soldiers, leaders, workers. The process would allow you to experience Kytherian thoughts and memories as well. You would truly know us as we would know you. Marcus felt a chill of anticipation mixed with fear. The idea of sharing his mind completely with an alien being was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. What are the risks? Commander Harrison asked, ever practical. For you? Confusion, temporary disorientation, possible lingering sensitivity to Kytherian mental emissions. For me. Zara hesitated. If I open my mind so completely to humans and, then, return to my people, I may never fully fit into Kytherian society again. I would be permanently changed. That's a hell of a sacrifice to ask, Marcus said quietly. Zara's mental voice carried a note of determination that reminded him of steel wrapped in silk. My people buried me alive and forgot about me. You dug me out with your bare hands and saved my life. Perhaps it is time for Kytherians to learn something new about the meaning of civilization. Dr. Voss cleared her throat. Even if we agreed to this, how would we select the representatives? This could affect the future of both our species. I have been observing your people through their thoughts since I awakened, Zara said. I can sense their characters, their motivations, their potential for growth. Marcus would represent your capacity for individual compassion. Dr. Voss would show your scientific curiosity and desire for knowledge. Commander Harrison would demonstrate your protective instincts and tactical thinking. And, the fourth, the commander asked. Someone from among your workers or technicians. Someone who represents the practical, day-to-day humanity that builds and maintains and fixes. That perspective may be the most important of all. Over the next several hours, they discussed the plan in detail. The risks were enormous. If the mental bridge went wrong, it could damage both species' representatives permanently. But the alternative was likely conflict between a human colony that had nowhere else to go and an alien species that had the technological advantage. Marcus volunteered immediately, despite Zara's warnings about the psychological strain. Dr. Voss agreed after lengthy consultation with her research team. Commander Harrison took longer to decide, weighing his duty to protect the colony against the potential benefits of peaceful coexistence. The fourth candidate came from an unexpected source. Elena Rodriguez, the colony's chief maintenance engineer, had been quietly listening to the discussions from the corridor outside the medical bay. When she finally entered, her weathered face was set with determination. I heard what you're planning, she said without preamble. And I want in. Elena, this isn't a decision to make lightly, Commander Harrison warned. Commander, with respect, I've been keeping this place running for 3 years with duct tape and prayer. I know every pipe, every circuit, every backup system in this colony. If these people are deciding whether we get to stay or get kicked off world, they need to understand what we've built here. Zara studied Elena's mind, sensing the deep practical wisdom and unshakable work ethic that had kept 2,000 humans alive on an alien world. She has the right spirit, Zara said finally. She understands that survival requires cooperation. As night fell over the colony, the 4 humans and 1 alien sat in the medical bay, preparing for something unprecedented in galactic history. Outside the windows, the alien landscape glowed softly under the light of Kythera's 3 small moons, and, deep underground, 50,000 Kytherians waited to learn whether the strange creatures from the stars could be trusted with their world. Marcus looked at Zara's ethereal features in the moonlight and realized that whatever happened tomorrow, none of them would ever be the same. They were about to become something new, not quite human, not quite Kytherian, but perhaps something better than either species could achieve alone. "Are you ready?" Zara asked, her mental voice touching all 4 humans simultaneously. "As ready as anyone can be for making history, Dr. Voss replied. "Then, let us begin," Zara said, and reached out with her mind to bridge the gap between worlds. The mental bridge opened like a flower blooming in fast motion. Marcus felt Zara's consciousness touch his mind, gentle but inexorable, and, suddenly, he was experiencing existence from an entirely alien perspective. Through Zara's senses, he could perceive the electromagnetic fields generated by the colony's machinery as visible streams of colored light. The thoughts of every human within a kilometer radius created a symphony of mental music that his brain struggled to interpret. Most overwhelming of all, he could feel the vast network of Kytherian minds deep beneath the surface, 50,000 alien intelligences connected in a web of shared consciousness that had existed for millennia. "Easy," Zara whispered into his mind. "Don't try to understand everything at once. Let it flow through you." Dr. Voss gasped beside him as her own connection formed. Through the bridge, Marcus could feel the scientists' wonder at perceiving the quantum fluctuations that governed Kytherian technology, tools and buildings that existed in a constant state of controlled molecular transformation, more alive than built. Commander Harrison's military mind reeled at the tactical implications of what he was experiencing. The Kytherians didn't just have advanced technology, they were part of it, their consciousness directly interfacing with crystalline networks that could reshape matter at the atomic level. Elena's reaction was perhaps the most profound. Through Zara's perception, she could see the colony's infrastructure as a crude but admirable attempt to create order from chaos. Every patch job, every jury-rigged repair, every innovative solution to impossible problems suddenly made sense as expressions of humanity's fundamental drive to build and improve and survive. "Now you understand," Zara said, her mental voice carrying undertones of sadness. "This is why my people fear you. Your technology may be primitive, but your adaptability is extraordinary. You solve problems by changing your environment rather than changing yourselves. To beings who have spent 10,000 years perfecting their harmony with nature, this seems chaotic." "But adaptation is how we survived," Marcus protested. "Earth was never easy for us. We had to learn to overcome challenges or die." "I know. And that is why some of us believe you could be valuable allies. But others see only the potential for destruction." Through the bridge, the 4 humans began to experience fragments of Kytherian history. They saw the gradual evolution of a species that had learned to work with their environment rather than against it, developing technology that grew rather than being manufactured, creating cities that were more like vast organisms than human-style settlements. But they also saw the darker chapters, wars with other species that had ended in extinction for the aggressors, conflicts that had taught Kytherians to be cautious about sharing their world with beings who thought differently. "The council is gathering," Zara announced. Through her senses, the humans could perceive a shift in the underground network of minds as the most ancient and powerful Kytherian intellects began to convene. "We must go to them." The journey to the council chamber was unlike anything the humans had imagined. Zara led them to a seemingly ordinary crystal formation about 2 kilometers from the colony, then placed her hands on the translucent surface. The crystal responded to her touch by revealing itself as a sophisticated transport mechanism, opening to reveal a shaft that descended straight down into the planet's crust. "The journey will be disorienting for human senses," Zara warned as they stepped into what appeared to be a capsule made of living crystal. "Trust the bridge between us." They descended through layers of rock and crystal, past underground rivers and caverns filled with bioluminescent organisms that provided natural lighting. The capsule moved not on rails or cables, but by being passed from one crystal formation to another in a relay system that seemed part technology, part biology. Finally, they emerged into the council chamber, and the four humans stopped breathing. The space was vast, easily the size of a cathedral, but its dimensions seemed to shift and flow like water. The walls were made of crystal that ranged from transparent to opaque to colors that human eyes had no names for. Growing from the floor, ceiling, and walls were formations that were clearly alive, part plant, part machine, part art installation. At the center of the chamber sat the Council of Shapers. There were 12 of them, each ancient beyond human comprehension. Where Zara appeared young and fragile, these beings radiated power and wisdom accumulated over centuries. Their skin had the translucent quality of aged crystal, and their movements carried the weight of eons. The eldest shaper, whose body seemed to be more crystal than flesh, spoke first. Its mental voice carried harmonics that made human consciousness resonate like a struck bell. Zara, who was lost and found, you bring the surface dwellers before us. Explain why we should not simply remove them from Kythera. Marcus felt Zara gather her courage before responding. Honored Shapers, I bring them so that you may know them as they truly are, not as we have imagined them to be. We have observed their actions for 3 of their years, another Shaper interjected. They strip the surface, poison the air with their machines, fight among themselves over resources. They are exactly what we expected. With respect, Honored One, Zara replied, you have observed only their external behaviors. I offer you the chance to experience their minds, their motivations, their capacity for growth. The eldest Shaper leaned forward, its crystalline features reflecting the chamber's shifting lights. Very well. Show us these surface dwellers. But know that if we find them lacking, both they and you will face consequences. Zara nodded and opened the mental bridge wide, sharing not just thoughts but the full depth of human experience with the council. Marcus felt his consciousness expand as the Shapers examined his memories. They saw his childhood on Earth, growing up in a world damaged by climate change and overpopulation. They experienced his decision to join the colony mission not out of noble purpose, but simply to escape a life that offered no hope for improvement. But they also felt his genuine compassion when he found Zara buried alive, his immediate instinct to help despite the potential risks. They experienced his growing understanding that survival required cooperation, and his willingness to risk his own sanity to bridge the gap between species. Through Dr. Voss, the Shapers experienced humanity's relentless curiosity about the universe. They felt her excitement at discovering alien life, her careful adherence to scientific protocols even when faced with the unprecedented, her genuine desire to learn rather than simply exploit. Commander Harrison's memory showed them humanity's darker side, the wars, the conflicts, the sometimes brutal pragmatism required for survival. But they also saw his protective instincts, his willingness to sacrifice himself for his people, and his growing recognition that true strength sometimes meant restraint. Elena's experiences perhaps had the greatest impact. Through her memories, the Shapers saw 3 years of constant adaptation and innovation. Every day brought new challenges as humans learned to survive in an environment they weren't designed for, and every day Elena and people like her found ways to overcome those challenges through ingenuity, cooperation, and sheer stubborn determination. When the bridge closed, the council chamber fell into profound silence. The 12 Shapers communicated among themselves through methods too subtle for the humans to perceive, their ancient minds processing what they had experienced. Finally, the eldest Shaper spoke. We have seen your memories, surface dwellers. You are indeed as chaotic and adaptable as we feared. But Marcus felt his heart stop at that pause. But you are also more compassionate than we expected. Your species' greatest strength is not your technology or your adaptability. It is your capacity to care for beings unlike yourselves. Another Shaper added, you found our child buried alive and chose to save her, though she was completely alien to you. You risked contamination to heal her. You opened your minds to us despite the danger. These are not the actions of a purely destructive species. What we propose, the eldest continued, is an experiment in cooperation. You may remain on Kythera, but not as before. We will work together to heal the damage your colony has caused to the surface, and, in return, you will help us understand adaptation, the thing you do naturally that we must learn. Dr. Voss stepped forward. What kind of cooperation? Shared cities, Zara interjected, her mental voice bright with excitement. Spaces where humans and Kytherians can live and work together. Places where your building technology and our growing technology can combine to create something neither species could achieve alone. It will not be easy, the eldest Shaper warned. There will be those among both our peoples who resist such changes. Old fears do not die quickly. Marcus looked around at his companions, Dr. Voss with her scientific curiosity blazing in her eyes, Commander Harrison calculating the tactical benefits of an alliance with such an advanced species, Elena already thinking about how human and Kytherian engineering might complement each other. We're willing to try, he said finally. After all, we came out here looking for a new world. Maybe we found something better, a new way of living in the universe. The eldest Shaper's crystalline features shifted in what might have been a smile. Then, let this be the first day of a new age. Kythera will be a world for both our species, shaped by both our strengths. As the council formally voted to approve the alliance, Marcus felt Zara's hand slip into his. Through their permanent mental connection, he could sense her joy and relief, but also her excitement for what lay ahead. You saved my life when you dug me out of that cage, she said privately to him. But, I think we've all saved each other today. Looking around the crystal chamber at the ancient Shapers and his fellow humans, Marcus had to agree. They'd come to Kythera as refugees from a dying world, seeking nothing more than survival. Instead, they'd found something unprecedented, a chance to build a truly interspecies civilization based on mutual respect and shared growth. It wouldn't be easy. There would be conflicts, misunderstandings, setbacks, and probably failures along the way. But, as Marcus looked at the faces around him, human and Kytherian alike, he felt a hope deeper than anything he'd experienced since leaving Earth. They were writing a new chapter in galactic history, and it began with the simple human instinct to help someone in need. No matter what challenges lay ahead, that foundation would be strong enough to build upon. Outside the crystal chamber, the twin sons of Kythera set over a world that belonged, for the first time in its history, to two species working together toward a common future. And, deep underground, in chambers that glowed with bioluminescent light, the real work of building tomorrow was just beginning. Marcus squeezed Zara's hand gently and smiled. Sometimes the most important journeys started with digging someone out of a hole. And, sometimes, if you were very lucky, that someone helped you dig yourself out of a hole you didn't even know you were in. The age of cooperation had begun.